Chris Duncan here, and this is my daily inspiration, daily download number 29, which is exciting that I've nearly done 30 of these. And back in flow, back doing it, back here in the Philippines, and enjoying myself. And today I wanted to talk about a life reinvention. And I think sometimes we get scared about where we are or where we're going. And we think about this life reinvention or reinventing ourselves, and we've done it before. But sometimes it can be scary. So I want to talk a little bit about what it takes, because this is what I've been going through. This is what I've been looking at is maybe where I'm heading isn't where I want to go. Maybe it's time for a reinvention. It's time to refocus. It's time to remember and to re-step into what it is that I want. And so I've been working through this and looking at a lot of things, thinking, well, what does it take for a life reinvention? Are we ready to reinvent ourselves? And what does it actually mean? So, if we look at the word invention, oh, hey, Rain, nice to see you on live. I'm glad that Facebook Live's working. I wasn't sure if it was for a moment. What is invention? Invention is something that we create. And so just by the nature of the word, when we look at it, by saying we're ready for a life reinvention, inside that word, inside that phrase, we've already said that we must have already invented ourselves in one way. So the core question inside that is, are we ready for a life reinvention? And what is it that we need to do? And I think this is something that a lot of people sit at and they go, well, am I actually ready for it? Because a reinvention means a new identity, true? And a new identity means a whole new set of rule structures, a whole new world, a whole new amount of possibilities. But sometimes we sit wanting to have a new life, a new experience, a new something, a new this, a new relationship, but we're not ready to go and do the full reinvention. And so it's like we dip in our toe in and we're not saying, you know what, I'm going to go all in. I'm going to go and shift. I'm going to reinvent. I'm going to be something new. Because a new invention can't operate the same as the old invention, you follow me? And so because it can't operate there, because it's not the same as the old invention, everything that was associated with the old place that we were there has to go. And so sometimes we want to reinvent ourselves to make a lot more money, but we want to hold on to a situation or people or beliefs that doesn't support having a lot of money. Sometimes we want to reinvent ourselves in a new relationship, but we want to hold on to the old invention, and we need to reinvent. And so the first step really is asking ourselves, okay, what... My alarm just went off. I don't know if you guys could hear that or not. But it's time to wake up. I woke up super early today. I've been up for hours. It's 6:30 in the morning right now here in the Philippines. And so my alarm just went off to wake me up, which is kind of funny. Even though I've been up for hours, kind of focused on this. And so the first thing I think of really clearly understanding is that if we want something new, we are going to have a reinvention. The second thing is to really understand that it's going to happen anyway. If your brain is already focused on something new, well, then you're already going to be making that shift. And so then the question you got to ask yourself is this, and this is so important, is what does that new invention look like? And I know it's probably the most simplest thing that you didn't want me to say, because you know that it's the truth, but sometimes we limit ourselves about what's possible. And did you notice I already shared some limits with you? Some of my limits. Do you follow me? Some of the limits I said, well, if you're going to have this, you have to let go of that. Complete BS, right? I want to let you all to know that you can completely reinvent, invent, do whatever it is you like, and create whatever it is you want. There are no rules, limits. There are no things that aren't possible. You can have all the money and still have unsuccessful friends. It's possible. Everything's possible. And that's the first step. And I don't know if we do this enough. Every single morning I do. I have a morning ritual. I get up. I get clear on where I'm going. And you know what? For the last month, that hasn't made sense to me. Where what I used to have and where I was used to be going, has that ever happened to anybody? Where you're going one way. What's up, Stevie? Hey, Darren. Hey, Rain. Nice to have some people on live. Has that ever happened to you? Is it all of a sudden the goals, the people in your life, the things, suddenly it's just not the same? And even though you try to fight it, you just know it's not the same. So it's about creating that and moving into that step. So what's the very first thing? Well, after you've gone and made that really, really clear picture of how it looks, who's in your life, the money that you have, what you do for a living, everything, you get super clear on that. I think the next step is making the decision. And this is sometimes some of the hardest step is to actually make that decision. And most of us don't make decisions that we stick to. Most of us make half decisions. Most of us make quarter decisions. Most of us make 20% decisions, not real solid 110 million% decision to cut from, to step in and go, do you know what? I'm completely reinventing myself. I am now a fitness person who's doing this and this and this. But you know what? We are reinventing every single moment anyway. Right? You're just a lot of the times reinventing what you've already done. Do you follow me on that? So we're doing it anyway, but it's making that decision of how we're going to show up. And this is sometimes, and I shared this on my private mastermind yesterday with some people who are actually on live. Morning, Christine. Is to understand that when you make a decision, the next step after you make a decision, and this is when you know that you're truly lined up with what you want, is when you step into doing whatever it takes. Right? A lot of people will make a decision and they'll say, I'm going to reinvent. This is what I'm going to be. But they won't do whatever it takes. And here's something that's inside whatever it takes. Taking 110% responsibility for everything. How many of you guys get that? Right? When you say, I'm going to do whatever it takes, it's you doing whatever it takes. It's you making decisions. It's you finding the right things, doing the right things. It's you making those decisions. It's coming from here. And it's that 110% making that decision and shifting into that. But then there's this final piece to create a complete, what's up, Sean? To make a complete reinvention is to step right into that never, ever, ever given up. And that's when you've completely reinvented. And this is when I look at this, I see people making weak decisions first. Second, that I see people moaning that stuff doesn't turn up fast enough, or that this thing didn't work, or that didn't work, and they're not ready to do whatever it takes. Next, I see people not taking responsibility and trying to make it something else's fault, right? Instead of going, you know what, this is fucking me, right? And I'm going to own this, and I'm going to do it, and this is my stuff. Do you guys get that? And then the last thing is going, never giving up, because if you've truly made a decision to step into the world, to bring something through, to reinvent, well, that's who you are. So, I say never giving up, but it doesn't even make sense to not give up, right? To give up. It doesn't even make sense because you've completely made that new decision and you've stepped into that reinvention. And so I think reinventing ourselves is something that we do all the time, but we're doing it subconsciously and we're nearly keeping it exactly the same as it's always been, right? We're nearly keeping it exactly the same as it's always been. And we reinvent that. And so imagine this. It's like we have a projector in our brain that's projecting out where we're going to go, who we're going to be, what we're going to do. And it's all out there. And it's literally showing us what we're about to step into. And the more you play around with this and understand this, the more you know you can step into absolutely everything. And so I think that this is the thing that I want to leave with, and I talked about this yesterday. I want to talk about the one thing. I want to talk about the things that make all the difference. Do you guys know there's just certain things that make all the difference in every area of life? And there's this amazing book. It's called Your One Thing. And I think the author is fantastic. I think he's so switched on. But here's the general consensus, is we all know the 80-20 rule. But what about the 80-20 rule of the 80-20? So consider this. So you've made the reinvention, you've got there, and then now you've got to ask yourself, and there's two steps to this, and you guys are going to enjoy this. The first is to understand the one thing. Now this is a little bit difficult than you might think, but let's first off define what I mean by the one thing. So you get to 80-20, right? 20% of the things you do give you 80% of the results. You should all know that, Pareto's principle. But what about the 80-20 of the 80-20? So if 20% give you 80%, right? So 20% of that 20%, what is that? 4% of everything, right? So that 4% gives you 80% of that first 80%. Now, what's 80% of 80%? 64%. So here's what I'm telling you. 4% of things, 4% are going to give you 64% of your results, right? And if I share this last thing with you, it might blow your mind. What if you are able to spend half of your time on that 4%, right? Times it by 12, right? It's going to equal 48% of your time. Do you guys following my math? And so if you times the 64% by 12, what do you end up with? Like 700 odd percent, right? So if you just spent half your time focused on that 4%, you're going to have a 7 times return on your business. 7 times return on your relationship. 7 times return on your health. 7x return. And so I think that's such a freaking exciting concept, don't you? I think that's so exciting to look at that and go, there's just these little things that if we do it, right? If we do it, then these things will make all the difference. So I've made this commitment to spend half my time doing the 4%, which is awesome. And so then you got to ask yourself, okay, shit, what is the 4%? And I think this is where mentoring comes in. I think this is where asking good questions come in. I think this is where finding people already doing what it is that you are wanting to do come in. So for example, in relationships, what would the 4% be? The 4% of things, if you spent your half your time doing that, I think for me, if I look at that, the 4% of everything would be, showing up present, having presence with Harriet, being there in presence. Number 2 would be understanding her love language and making sure I fulfill that every single day. I think that's the 4%. If all I did is half my time with her, I was present and understood her love language and did that, that's got to be it. Well, I'm betting on it. She probably watched this, by the way. And the next thing is, you think about your health, right? Well, Tim Ferriss, and look, I just studied this, guys. I get freaking excited about ideas. And I haven't been this excited about an idea for a long time. And I'm completely redefining the way that I do things based around this. Completely. So I went and studied what would be the 4% in health. Like literally the 4%. And that would give me the 7x return. That if I just focused on that, it would give me everything else, you see? And so I was able to redefine that. And for me, it came down to green drink, protein in the first 30 minutes in the morning, which sounds crazy, but anyway, and a morning exercise. And that's it. And if I just hit that, I know everything else is good. What about in business? You follow me, guys? In business, what is that? What is that critical thing? It's always revenue. It's revenue or leverage, right? It is. And you look at it and you go, if you can just spend half your time focused on that thing, where would you end up? 7x return. And this is big. So, there's my alarm again. That was my second alarm that went off in case I slept in the first one. But I've been up all morning. So, hey, Nelson, good to have you on. So, a reinvention might be something that you want. And here's what happens in a reinvention is we've got to understand those one things that are going to get us to where we want. We've got to look at it and go, okay, so what is my 4% now that I'm reinvented? What's it going to be? How am I going to show up? And when I really look at it and I think about it, I'm about to completely have a reinvention back to what I think is true for me, what is true for me right now. And I'm going to come out so much stronger, more intense. Like for me, I feel like I've been a little bit not me. And I'm ready to reinvent into what I think is me, which is just a silly vibration. I mean, I think we're 93% of our brain is water. So, we're really just at some sort of crazy chemical reaction vibrating on this plane. And the reinvention can happen so freaking fast. And it's just stepping into that and owning it. And I think our language and what we tell ourselves every single day makes and plays a huge role in this. I think what we're focusing on, who we surround ourselves, where we surround ourselves, I think is going to play such a big role. And then, of course, understanding 100% what that 4% is, it's going to make all the difference as we step into that new thing. So anyway, I hope you guys love this. For me, this is just such a great place for me to share what I'm thinking about and what's going on for me, and I love it. And this was my daily inspiration. number 29, I think. So it's quite nice to be able to see this kind of backlog of these and to be able to do it. So I hope that this made sense to you. Comment on it if it did. Share it with some people if you think that others need to hear it. And yeah, let me know, like, some feedback. I'm really open to help as many people as possible this year. In fact, I'm looking to help 1,000 people to build their dream business, and I'm super excited about that. So stay tuned for some more information. Catch you guys.